This is Elliott, Connie. For over 15 years, I've helped thousands of counselors support their clients and worked with clients of my own in finding solutions for their everyday lives. And I want to welcome you back to the aha moments where every day I share lessons that I've learned in my work and in my life to inspire you to live your very best life. And today I'm going to be talking about overcoming challenges and carrying lessons on for the rest of your life. So when I was a kid, I had a challenge. I had a significantly challenging moment that taught me a lesson that I carry with me even to this day. And probably this one moment transformed what the rest of my life would look like, maybe more than the other moment. So let me take you back a little bit. When I was young, I was a really, really good baseball player. I started playing baseball when I was 10. By the time I was 12, I was very, very good. In fact, I was the best player in our town league. Now, in Massachusetts at the time, there were 2 seasons for baseball. Number one was like the rec season, and that's when the entire town plays. You don't have to be any quality of baseball player. You just have to sign up to be eligible to play in season 1. Now, season 2 was the really important season, and that was called All-Star season. And that was a really big deal when you're 12 years old because All-Star season meant in the rec season, you were among the best players and you got to travel around New England throughout the entire summer playing baseball and playing in tournaments, and it was a lot of fun, and the goal was always to make the All-Star team. And when I was 12 years old, I was the very best player in the league. I led the league in batting average, I led the league in home runs, and I led my team to the town championship. It was a really, really big deal. It was a really, really big moment. I was not selected for the All-Star team, and I was crushed. Like, I was devastated. At that time in my life, like, that was the biggest thing that could have happened, and I was absolutely devastated that I didn't make the All-Star team. I later found out that there was a bit of a conspiracy. I was the only black player in the league. Well, me and my younger brother, we were only 2 black players in the league, and the dads who selected the All-Star team kind of conspired to make sure that their children made the All-Star team and not me, so I was left off that All-Star team. And I can remember the next season, I was 13, so you kind of graduated to the next league, and I was like, I am not going to let that happen again. And I developed this mindset that I'm going to do every single thing I can to show people that I'm the best. That actually was the origin of my current work ethic, where I'm going to work hard enough that if someone tries to hold me out of something that I rightfully have earned, it will overtly look like discrimination. It will overtly look like an inappropriate attack. It will overtly look like you were doing something wrong. And I started working incredibly hard. I took that work ethic into the field that I'm currently in. So in 2010, when I wrote my first book and I started showing up at conferences doing keynotes, there were definitely people there that were not pleased to see Elliott Connie, who looked the way I looked and talked the way I talked and dressed the way I dressed. But I went back to that lesson I learned when I was 12. I want to work so hard that if they try to take an opportunity away from me, it will look overtly discriminatory. It will be very, very clear that the people doing this were not appropriate. It'll be very, very clear that I am not at fault here. And I'm going to work so hard to make sure that I never give up on my dreams. When that happened when I was 12 years old, I could have taken that as an indictment on my baseball skills. I could have taken that as an indictment on how I play baseball, and I could have given up on my dream to be a professional baseball player, which that was my dream at the time. But it made me double down. It made me get stubborn. It made me realize that in order to pursue your goals, you have to have stubbornness. You have to pursue your goal with a bit of stubbornness and not let anybody deter you, distract you, or ruin your pursuit of your goal. And that started for me when I was 13, and I carry it with me to this day. That's how I've gotten to where I've gotten in this field. I am now the leader of the solution-focused community. I've traveled and given more lectures than anyone else. I have the biggest training organization than anyone else. And it happened because when I was 13, 12 years old, I learned that if you have a dream, you have to hold on to it with stubbornness, because sometimes unfair and difficult things happen and you have to overcome them. And you have to work very, very hard to get over them. You have to do everything you can to learn lessons and carry forward. And I want to encourage all of you to think about the challenges you've overcome in your life and how that relates to the goals that you have, and pursue those goals with a bit of stubbornness. So hey, listen. Thanks for being here today. I really appreciate it. And if you wouldn't mind, I really do need a huge favor. You guys have been helping me out so much, and this podcast is starting to spread. And I'd love it if you can continue to help me by sharing this podcast with at least one person in your life that you think could benefit from the message I shared today. And please don't forget to head on over to Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you listen to podcasts and subscribe. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much, and I will see you tomorrow. This is Elliott, Connie, and for over 15 years, I've helped thousands of counselors support their clients and worked with clients of my own to help them find solutions in their everyday lives. And I want to welcome you back to Aha Moments, where every day I share lessons I've learned in my work and in my life to inspire you to live your very best life. And today, I'm going to be talking about overcoming obstacles and someone that I watched overcome an obstacle that I thought was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen, and it's caused me to think that this person is one of the most amazing people that I've ever seen. Her name is Becca Frower. She is Dr. Adam Frower's wife. So I'm going to tell you really quickly that a couple of years ago, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was a crazy situation. Adam and I were teaching in Florida, and Adam, on the first morning, he says, I might have to step away today because Becca's got an appointment. There's been something discovered, and they don't think it's a big deal, but she's got an appointment with the doctor, and I'm going to find out the news on what this situation is. So we're teaching. Adam gets called. He steps out of the room. He's gone for about a half an hour, and he comes back, and I look at his face and I give a thumbs up gesture, hoping that he would give me a thumbs up just to let me know everything's okay. And he gave me a thumbs down. And I realized that Adam has just learned that his wife's been diagnosed with breast cancer. And, the next year was scary and had lots of difficult challenges and lots of difficult moments as Becca went through the breast cancer treatment and Becca went through chemotherapy and all of the very physical and emotional things that happen. But there was a moment in this process where I realized that human beings are stronger than we give ourselves credit for, and we can truly overcome anything. We often talk about, cancer survivors as being very strong, and I think that's true, but I want to tell you like a moment where that strength was noticeable and observable and very clear. Adam, at the time, had a job that stressed him out. Like, I won't go as far as saying he didn't like his job, but it was definitely a job that stressed him out. And he was working with me and really enjoying his work. And his wife noticed and even would comment to him that when you talk to people associated with your academic job, you have one level of kind of mood. But when you talk to Elliott about the work you guys are doing, you seem to get excited and be passionate. That was kind of the theme in Adam's life at the time. And then Becca's going through chemotherapy and radiation and, really zapped her energy. She would spend days in bed. And if you know Becca, that's very unusual. And she started doing exercises where she would walk to the mailbox in front of their home, which is, probably 20 yards maybe. And then she would work up the strength to walk to the end of the block. And I came to visit, and they were going to go do their exercises where Becca was going to walk with Adam to the end of the block. But on that walk, Adam and I get engrossed in a really passionate conversation about the work we're doing. And we get to the end of the block and we go to turn around and Becca says, no, I can keep going. We look at her, Adam looks at her, are you sure? And she said, yes, I can keep going. Instead of going to the end of the block and back, on that particular walk, on that particular day, we went around the block, the whole block. Becca walked around the whole block for the first time since going through chemo and radiation and all of the things. We got to the end of the walk and Becca was exhausted, but also there was a sense of pride. And you realize that Becca was able to do that because she enjoyed watching her husband be excited talking to his best friend about the work they were doing. Like, she used her love for her husband to overcome the obstacle of her body being tired and weary from chemotherapy and the radiation. And in that moment, I realized, not only is this a strong person, but it highlighted to me the power of love and the power of positive energy and the power of using love as a weapon against your obstacles. Because in that moment, she had a choice. I can turn back and go home, or I can keep walking, which would allow my husband and his best friend to continue to talk about the work that they're doing so passionately. And it touched me. It touches me deeply even now just thinking about it. And I know that love is that powerful. I know that love is that glorious. And I know that love is the tool that can help us overcome any obstacle. So I want you to think about obstacles in your life and think about ways that you could use love to overcome them. So hey, Thanks for being here today. Thank you for listening. If you would do me a huge favor, I'd love it if you'd share this podcast with one person in your life that could benefit from hearing this message, with one person in your life that could benefit from hearing how to use love to overcome obstacles. And please don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else where you listen to your podcasts, and I'll see you tomorrow. This is Elliott, Connie, and for over 15 years, I've helped thousands of counselors support their clients and worked with clients of my own in finding solutions to their everyday lives. And I want to welcome you back to the aha moments where every day I share lessons that I've learned in my work and in my life to inspire you to live your very, very best life. And today, I'm going to be talking about overcoming obstacles, and specifically the obstacle of racism and discrimination, and quite frankly, any other obstacle that we experience in our life. But I'm going to be talking specifically about a racist incident that occurred in my career and in my life. I'm going to share with you what got me through it, and hopefully I'll inspire you to be able to use this information to get through difficult things that you experience in your life as well. So let me tell you what happened. There is a public forum known as a listserv where all of the people who practice the type of psychotherapy that I do kind of publish, and it's kind of a community. It's like an online community based upon posting on this public forum. And one day, this man named Mark Mitchell published on this forum, and he was looking for people that were teaching online courses. Now, this is before the pandemic when basically everyone is doing online courses. This is like a new thing, and he's asking if anybody does online courses. Now, at the time, I was by far the leader in this approach, and by far had the most prominent online presence. And someone emailed him and suggested that he look up my material. And Mark Mitchell responded publicly that he didn't want to send anybody to Elliott, Connie because he didn't like me, basically. And that's fine. I mean, not everybody's going to like you. And you might be thinking, well, Elliott, how do you know this is racially motivated? Maybe it is just he didn't like you personally instead of being racially motivated. But here's where it gets interesting. So when he realized that he sent that reply publicly, he then made a public post saying that it was a mistake. He was just joking. It was a joke that he didn't mean to make. But then he started calling and emailing people saying that it was a mistake. He meant to reply privately to the person who contacted him, but had instead replied publicly. And he went on this like apology tour across everybody in the field, excluding me. He never reached out to me. He never said anything. What he said publicly was it was a joke. Now, because I knew some of the people that he was calling and emailing and getting in contact with, and he was telling them it was in fact not a joke, he just didn't mean to send that reply publicly, I knew he was lying publicly. But he had removed my ability to address it, because when I tried to address it publicly, people were saying, Ellie, he was just kidding. You should just let it go because he was just kidding. He was just joking. And you need to take the joke. But the truth is, he really meant what he said. He just didn't mean for everybody to know it. He meant it to go out privately. And one of the reasons why I'm comfortable saying his name is because he said all these things publicly. So now that it's public record and public knowledge, I can comfortably say that the person's name who did this was Mark Mitchell. Now, let me tell you how I experienced that. One of the most difficult ways to use your privilege and oppress people is to remove their voice. So when he publicly misled people saying that he was joking about what he said, but privately was acknowledging I was in fact not joking, I just didn't mean for it to go out publicly, he had removed my ability to address it, which is discriminatory, which is oppressive, which is privileged. And it was really hard to go through that. And knowing that everybody else was so valuable to him that he would reach out and apologize to them. But I wasn't valuable enough to receive a message from him. I was not important enough to receive an apology from him. The person that was actually victimized by the incident is not the person that you took time out to apologize for. That bothered me. That was a difficult thing to experience. And even now it's a difficult thing to experience. But it highlights that sometimes hard things happen. And sometimes people are going to behave in a not wonderful way towards you. And you have to have a way of overcoming it. And for me, I just decided I'm going to keep doing the work that I do. I'm going to continue trying to inspire people. I'm going to continue trying to make a difference in this world. I'm going to continue trying to do things well and do things right and do things to the best of my ability. And if someone else decides that they want to behave poorly, I am not going to engage in that. I'm not going to let it drag me down. Now, that is one of probably literally 24 incidents that I have experienced where I thought race was a driving factor to the way I was being treated, but I am still the leader of this field and I still have the biggest presence. And I think that's important to recognize because racists don't always win. Hate, anger, and negativity will never, ever win. So I want to ask you to just remember how important it is to embrace differences and to remember that we have to respect people who are different. We have to respect different voices, and we should never try to oppress them. So once again, thank you so much for being here. And if you wouldn't mind, please do me a huge favor and share this podcast with at least one person who needs to hear this story today. And don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else where you listen to your podcast. It would mean the world to me, and I will see you tomorrow. This is Elliott Connie, and for over 15 years, I've helped thousands of counselors support their clients in finding solutions in their everyday lives and worked with thousands of clients of my own to do the same. And I want to welcome you back to the aha moments where every day I share the lessons I've learned in my work and in my life to inspire you to live your very best self. And today, I'm going to be continuing to talk about overcoming obstacles, and I'm going to highlight something that the entire globe got to see this past summer as we got to witness the great Simone Biles, who is a United States gymnast, and she's the most decorated United States gymnast in history. She is amazing. She is phenomenal. But what I respect most about Simone Biles is the way that she handles obstacles and the way that she has thrived in the face of obstacles. So I want to talk about, number one, what happened on the United States gymnastics team over the past 15 years, which is Larry Nassar violating the women on the gymnastics team sexually, and these women being sexually assaulted, and reporting this to leadership in the United States Gymnastics Association and nothing happening. And this man was enabled and allowed to continue to perpetrate these crimes and continue to violate these women for so many years. And then he's finally arrested and he's finally held accountable. And there's a very public trial about what's going on. And these women had to take the stand and sit in court and listen and open testimony as these difficult things come to light. And in spite of that, these amazing women, Simone Biles included, would still have to go perform and would still have to go compete. And they were still winning gold medals. To me, I think about that and I just think, man, like if the whole world got to watch one of the most difficult things that I ever encountered, if the whole world was watching one of the most difficult things that I ever went through, I am honestly not sure how I would continue to perform and to continue to perform at the level that these women were performing at. It was awe-inspiring to me as I saw that happen. Being a psychotherapist, I understand the impact of sexual assault. I understand the impact of trauma on the human brain and on the human psyche. And watching what was going on was just unbelievable. In gymnastics, there is these things called, I think they're called the Spinnies. And that is when you do a flip, you lose orientation from where you are and you can't really land safely on your feet. It's actually very dangerous. People have broken their necks because once you're flipping and spinning around, if you lose orientation of where you are, you land on your head or on your neck and you break bones and break your neck and break your back. And Simone Biles had experienced this. And rather than either performing poorly or causing herself great harm, she pulled out of certain Olympic events. And the response that I saw on social media and people commenting on posts was quite frankly embarrassing. Like people were saying how wrong she was and how un-American she was and how unpatriotic she was and how she didn't deserve to be on that spot and how she was violating her contract and how she took a spot away from another person who could have used it. And it was absolutely terrible. And when you watch someone, I remember watching her at an event that she had pulled out of, cheering for her team. And once again, I was just in awe of watching this person who was prioritizing her physical health, who was prioritizing her mental health, and was there supporting her team, making sure that they could do well and she could handle the onslaught of abuse that she was going through with dignity and with grace. And I think all of us should be able to watch what Simone Biles went through her whole career. The majority of her career, she was actually performing as a sexual assault survivor. And what we saw this summer as we watched this young woman represent our country with dignity and grace at times where our country was not holding her up high. And I hope we can remember the lesson from Simone Biles is that we can respond to vile hatred with dignity and grace. So once again, man, I want to thank you guys for being here today. And if you wouldn't mind, please do me a huge favor and share this podcast with at least one person who needs to hear this message today. I know you know someone in your life who's struggling with an obstacle who could really benefit from hearing this message today. Please share it with them. And don't forget to head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast and hit the subscribe button. I'll see you tomorrow. What's up, everyone? This is Elliott Connie, and for over 15 years, I've helped thousands of counselors support their clients and worked with thousands of clients myself in finding solutions in their everyday lives. And I want to welcome you back to the aha moments where every day I share lessons I've learned in my work and in my life to inspire you to live your very, very best life. And today I want to talk to you about obstacles, and I want to talk to those people out there who feel like maybe they can't do it, who feel like maybe they don't have the same kind of resources that other people have to overcome adversity. I want to talk to the people who feel like maybe I'm just not strong enough to do it. And here's what I've learned, probably the number one lesson I've learned from being a psychotherapist and working with thousands of clients over the years. And I've learned that everyone has inherent strength. And everyone has inherent abilities that can help them overcome the challenges that come with this life. The simple truth is, we're all habitual overcomers. All of us have faced adversity and all of us have overcome it. But the problem is, we often don't give ourselves credit for being overcomers. We often give ourselves blame for the presence of the adversity and completely ignore the evidence of our strength by the way that we dealt with it and overcame it. And sometimes that adversity is really, really small. I remember when I was in undergrad, the math that I was taking was really, really hard. I'm not gifted in math. Math is not my strength. In order to get my bachelor's degree, I had to achieve a passing grade in college algebra. Now, some people might think that that's super easy, and college algebra is kind of a basic algebra. But for me, it was really challenging. And I can remember I waited until my senior year in college to take college algebra. And on the very first exam, I got a 17 out of 100. Literally the biggest F I could possibly get. And I worked so hard the rest of the semester. I went to a math tutor literally every day, Monday through Friday. I had the math tutor check my homework, and every time I took a test, I got a little bit better, until eventually, by the end of the semester, I needed like a 90 on the final exam to pass. I needed this really high grade to pass, and I got it. And I remember getting that grade, realizing that this was my last obstacle to achieve a bachelor's degree. And sometimes to this very day, I look back and I think that was something that I overcame. And if I could overcome that with work and discipline and passion and focus, then I could overcome anything. And that becomes the magic, is once you start paying attention to the skills you utilize to overcome adversities, then you're able to apply those skills again. There have been many, many times in my life, there have been many, many times in my career when I went back and I used those same skills and traits. I used discipline, hard work ethic, focus, attention to detail to help me achieve goals or overcome adversities. It's really important that we analyze what makes us able to overcome things so that we can continue to overcome things. And in order to analyze those things, we first have to accept that they're true. First have to accept that they're present. And if you're listening to this podcast, if you can hear my voice, you have overcome more things than you are giving yourself credit for. And I need you to pay attention to them. I need you to access that information. I need you to analyze yourself as a habitual overcomer. Now, there are people who have accomplished amazing things. You know, you've won $1 million and you've won championships in sports and you've succeeded in that business. But all of us have the stuff in us to overcome adversity, and all of us have been doing it our whole lives. But only a cherished few have developed the habit of attending to themselves in that way and acknowledging that they are a habitual overcomer of adversity. Those cherished few are the ones with the strongest mental capacities. Those cherished few are the ones who are capable of going further than the rest of us. And I want to make sure all of you can hear my voice become those cherished few. I want to make sure all of you can hear what I'm saying. Begin to look at yourselves and think to yourself, I can do it. And I know I can do it because I have been doing it, and I've been doing it my whole life. And now it's simply a matter of taking the time to give myself credit. And I want you to sit for a moment. As soon as this podcast ends, I just want you to sit for a moment and think of all of the adversities that you've overcome. And I want you to think of all the skills and traits you have inside of you that have allowed you to get over those very hard things. Thanks again for being here today. It just means the world to me that you would take some time out of your day to listen to me. And if you wouldn't mind, please do me a huge favor and share this podcast with at least one person that you know could benefit from hearing this message. And don't forget to head on over to Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you listen to podcasts and hit the subscribe button. And I'll see you on Monday.